Welcome back. If you spend any time at all engaging with current events,
Oh, yeah. Scrolling through news feeds, maybe local politics.
exactly, or even just listening to the sheer volume of public talk,
Mm-hmm.
you've probably felt it. That kind of overwhelming feeling, frustration, outrage.
Political despair, even. It feels like, just trying to be a functional, moral citizen is, well, it's kind of threatening our peace of mind. We feel like we're losing our minds sometimes.
It really can feel that way. Like you have to engage, but doing so costs you your own sanity. That essential duty feels like an existential threat.
And that's precisely what we want to dig into today. How do you participate constructively when everything feels so polarized, so overwhelming, so loud?
Right. And our mission here isn't to push some new political theory. Instead, we're turning to one of the oldest practical philosophies out there, ancient Stoicism.
Yeah, looking for a path to engage rationally, productively, without losing ourselves in the process.
Yeah.
We're looking for that durable citizen model.
And what's really compelling is where Stoicism came from. It wasn't cooked up in some quiet academic setting.
Not at all. It was forged in some seriously volatile political times, environments that, arguably aren't that different from ours in terms of pressure and instability.
Think about Panatius of Rhodes bringing it to Rome around 140 BC. Rome was dealing with huge imperial power, corruption, constant upheaval.
Exactly. And the big names we associate with Roman Stoicism, Seneca, Epictetus, Musonius Rufus, Marcus Aurelius, these weren't just thinkers, they lived through it.
Tyrannical regimes, brutal emperors.
I mean, Seneca served Nero. Nero, one of the most erratic emperors in history, and Nero eventually forced him to commit suicide.
Right, and Musonius Rufus, the teacher, exiled twice, first by Nero, then later by Vespasian.
Yeah, they were punished because their moral stances, their political leanings, didn't align with the rulers.
So this philosophy wasn't about escaping the world. It was about how you hold on to your integrity, your virtue, when the world seems determined to crush it.
Absolutely. The fact that it thrived in places defined by exile, tyranny, conflict, that proves its core promise. It offers a way to function with reason and justice, even when externals are just chaotic.
Okay, so if the external political world is so volatile, so uncontrollable, where does the Stoic citizen even start? How do you build a foundation?
It starts with something really fundamental, simple sounding, but incredibly challenging. The dichotomy of control.
Ah, yes, the core principle. Epictetus hammered this home,
He
right?
did. He basically said that our happiness, our well-being, and even our effectiveness, it all depends on focusing our energy only on what we actually control or can influence.
Everything else?
External, not relevant to our moral core, not worth sacrificing our inner peace over.
But we do the opposite, don't we? It's almost this strange tendency we have. We pour energy into precisely the things we can't control.
Absolutely. We obsess over election results, political maneuvering miles away, the motives of people we'll never meet,
Burning up so much mental and emotional fuel.
and it's finite fuel. Look, in politics, you can control your effort, how well you research something, how civilly you argue your vote. That's significant.
Okay.
But the final election outcome, the way a specific law gets passed or not, what millions of other people decide, that's outside your control. And obsessing over that uncontrollable result, that's just setting yourself up for frustration. Guaranteed.
So let's pin down what we do control. The Stoics had a specific term, didn't they? Proheresis.
Proheresis, yeah. Often translated as our moral will, our intention, our volition. It's our judgments, our opinions, our capacity to choose.
That's the zone where we can be, as Epictetus put it, fully autonomous.
Exactly. Unimpeded and undistressed. Think of it like your internal command center. You're the only one with the keys, no external event, no angry tweet, no election loss, no media frenzy can mess with it unless you let it, unless you give it assent.
But how do we know if we're actually strengthening this inner system? It's not like lifting weights where you see muscle growth.
Epictetus had a great analogy for that. He said if an athlete claims they're making progress, he wouldn't just look at their halters, their training weights.
Oh, okay.
He'd want to see the effect of that training on their actual performance. How are they running? How are they jumping?
So for the Stoic, the performance isn't lifting the weight, it's
It's how you exercise your will, your pursuits, your avoidances, your desires, your aversions. Is your will, as he said, conformably to nature, elevated, free, unrestrained, unimpeded, faithful, modest.
So the focus shifts entirely. It's not about whether your candidate won.
Right. It's about the quality of your action and judgment in pursuit of that goal. Did you argue justly? Did you vote based on your best understanding? Did you treat opponents decently? That's the internal win.
Okay, that reframes political engagement quite dramatically.
And it leads straight into how Stoics view political outcomes themselves. Things like money, health, reputation, and, critically, political victories or power. They classify these as indifference.
Okay, pause there. Because indifferent sounds like apathy. If I say, I don't know, the outcome of climate change policy is indifferent, doesn't that mean I don't care if the planet burns? Isn't that politically useless?
That's the immediate reaction, and it's a really important point. The Stoics were more nuanced. They made a distinction. There are things that are morally good, like virtue, and then there are things that are materially useful.
Okay.
These useful things, health, wealth, policy success, they call it preferred indifference. We absolutely should work towards them. We vote for them. We definitely prefer them over the dispreferred indifference like poverty, sickness, or, yes, political failure.
So working towards a just political goal is still vital, but achieving it.
Achieving it is ultimately outside your complete control. It depends on chance, on other people. For a Stoic, the only thing that's truly absolutely good is virtue. Why? Because it's the only thing no one can ever take away from you.
So if I make my happiness depend on that political win.
You basically, as Seneca warned, handed over your happiness to the whims of something or someone else. And that just leads to inevitable frustration, disappointment when things don't go your way, which they often won't.
That really clarifies where to put the energy. Seneca also talked about busyness, didn't he? How people think just being busy means they're successful.
He did. He was quite critical of, long, tiresome workplace meetings in which nothing meaningful is accomplished. Sound familiar?
Slate chuckle.
I bet, yeah. And it applies so directly to a lot of modern political activity. Think about what we might call performative activism, or just getting caught in the constant outrage cycle online.
Right. You're busy, you're arguing, you're sharing petitions, maybe going to rallies.
But is it meaningful action? Is it virtuous action within your actual sphere of influence? Or is it just being busy to feel like you're doing something? Yeah. Seneca worried we lose sense of the things that really matter in life that way.
It's that distinction again, doing what's in your power, justly and rationally, versus obsessing over results shaped by millions of others.
The latter is a recipe for burnout. Simple as that.
Okay, so we've built the foundation, the inner citadel. Focus on what you control, your judgment, your will. Now, how do we defend it? Because in today's politics, the biggest invader feels like, well, anger.
Absolutely. Anger seems to be the default mode in so much political discussion now. And Seneca went after this hard. He argued, pretty forcefully, that anger is never justified.
Never. Even when reacting to something genuinely awful, a real injustice, that's a tough sell today. People feel righteous anger is necessary. It's the fuel for change.
Yeah, it is a tough sell. But Seneca's reasoning was that anger isn't a tool, it's a disease. He literally described it as a disease of the body characterized by swelling.
Swelling, okay.
It's an impulse, he said, that overleaps reason and drives reason along with it. When you're angry, you're not thinking clearly. Reason has been hijacked. Even if the initial spark was a perception of injustice, the action that follows anger is almost always excessive, counterproductive.
Yeah.
Ultimately harmful to you.
But if we ditch anger, what motivates action? If I see something terrible, doesn't anger push me to fix it?
The Stoic response is, anger might be fast, but it's blind. Acting rationally out of a sense of justice or duty or loyalty. That might feel slower, but it's steady. It's reliable.
So better to act calmly from duty than rage for revenge.
Always. Courage and justice are virtues you can control. Anger is a passion that controls you and leads to mistakes.
And this goes right back to the dichotomy of control again. Anger, like fear or despair, comes from a judgment we make about something external.
Exactly. And since our judgments are under our control, part of proheresis anger is something we can manage, something we should actively try to avoid giving into.
Okay, that's the theory. But in practice, online especially, you're just bombarded with things designed to make you angry. How do you handle that immediate flash of fury when you see some headline or post?
Right. This is where the Stoic practice of handling disturbing impressions comes in. It's about mindfulness, really.
Being aware of those automatic thoughts or images that just pop up.
Yes. That first jolt of shock or outrage isn't the main issue. The issue is what you do next. Do you feed it?
So the Stoic move is...
Don't give assent to that initial impression. Don't get swept along. Recognize it for what it is. Just an impression, an interpretation, not necessarily reality. Marcus Aurelius put it bluntly, discard the judgment and you'll be saved.
Who then is stopping you from discarding it? I remember that line.
Powerful, isn't it? So think of it maybe as a three-step process when you encounter that outrageous political story.
Okay.
Step one, the impression hits. Headline, comment, whatever, instant emotional reaction. Anger, maybe fear.
Step 2.
Pause. Delay. This was Chrysippus's advice. Don't evaluate it immediately. Wait until that emotional inflammation abates, as he put it. Give reason a chance to catch up.
Create some space.
Exactly. Then, step 3. Judge rationally. Or, more accurately, reject the initial irrational judgment. Once you're calmer, reason can see. Okay, this external event might be bad, but my anger about it is an unhelpful judgment. It harms me more than it fixes the problem.
That pause, that refusal to just react, that seems crucial. It stops us from just adding to the noise and polarization.
It prevents us from becoming part of the problem we're trying to address. And closely related to this is guarding against emotional contagion. Political despair, collective rage, it spreads.
Like catching a cold.
Epictetus used an even starker analogy when talking about grief, but it applies perfectly here. He knew we're wired for empathy. If you see someone grieving, you should show sympathy. Maybe even, as he said, accompany her moaning with moaning of our own, externally. But be careful not to moan inwardly. Don't actually catch her grief.
Why not? Isn't that empathy?
His point was catching her grief doesn't actually help her, but it definitely hurts you. It makes you less stable, less able to offer real help. He compared it to trying to help someone who's poisoned by taking poison yourself.
Or deliberately catching the flu to help someone with the flu. It's foolish.
Utterly foolish and counterproductive. And the same goes for political outrage. If you just absorb the internal despair and fury floating around, especially online, you lose your own stability. You can't think clearly. You can't contribute constructively. You can't maintain your own integrity.
Okay, so we're focusing inward, managing our reactions, rejecting anger. But this brings us back to that criticism we touched on earlier. Doesn't this all sound a bit, well, self-absorbed, like a policy for a wholly self-absorbed life? If my inner peace is paramount, why bother with messy politics at all?
Yeah, it's a common critique, but it's based on misunderstanding. Epictetus directly argued against this. He said self-concern, achieving that inner tranquility, isn't the end goal itself. It's the essential precondition for acting well in the world, in all our social roles.
So you need inner stability in order to be a good citizen.
Precisely. You can't effectively care for the community if you're internally chaotic and driven by passions. And for Stoics, being social, being part of the community, wasn't optional. It's fundamental to human nature.
Right. Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus both insisted we're naturally social beings.
Yeah, constituted to be citizens of the world, a principal part of the world. We're not just isolated individuals, we're parts of a larger system. Our own good is tied up with the common good.
Epictetus had that really striking definition of a citizen's job, the evangelia.
He did. He said it's to treat nothing as a purely private interest and to deliberate about nothing as though one were detached.
Wow. That's a direct call for engagement, isn't it?
Absolutely. He uses the body analogy again. We should act for the whole, like a hand or foot acts for the whole body. A rational foot wouldn't just do its own thing. It would act always with the entire body's well-being in mind.
So realizing my interest is tied to the common interest, that changes everything. It's not just my side versus their side.
It becomes about how we together support the health of the whole body politic. Marcus Aurelius echoed this. Rational beings are made for each other, for mutual usefulness. He even said injuring another person is like committing impiety against the most ancient and venerable of the gods. Strong stuff.
So thinking about that person you're arguing with politically, seeing them not just as an opponent, but as part of the same whole.
It shifts the dynamic.
Yeah.
From combat to maybe a difficult deliberation about common welfare.
Okay, so how does this broad idea of sociability translate into specific duties day to day? How do I know what my duty is?
Epictetus gave a pretty practical method. Our duties arise from our relationships. Father, neighbor, citizen, general. Each role comes with natural obligations.
And the rule for navigating those, especially when others aren't playing their part well.
His core rule was, do not examine what he is doing, but what you must do, that your will shall be conformable to nature. If someone else acts badly, your job isn't to mirror their bad behavior or lash out in anger.
It's to respond virtuously according to your role and your nature.
Exactly. And remember his point, we're only truly harmed if we believe we are harmed by someone else's external actions. Our inner state, our proheresis, remains untouched unless we consent to the harm.
But sometimes acting virtuously, fulfilling your duty as a citizen, that means standing up to power, right? And that can be incredibly dangerous.
Absolutely. And history gives us powerful examples. The story of Helvidius Priscus is probably the classic case of Stoic political duty trumping self-preservation.
Tell us about him. He lived under Nero and Vespasian?
Yes, a student of philosophy, exiled under both. When Vespasian became emperor and started basically disrespecting the Senate, treating it like a rubber stamp, Priscus faced a choice. Most senators just kept quiet to stay safe.
But Priscus didn't.
No, he insisted on defending the Senate's rights, his own right to speak freely, even when Vespasian explicitly told him, keep talking like that and you'll end up dead.
What did he say?
His response became legendary in Stoic circles. Essentially, it's my duty to speak truth. It's your job to kill me if you want. You do your part, I'll do mine.
He knew the risks.
He chose his duty, his integrity, over his physical safety. He absolutely did.
Yeah.
He demonstrated that willingness to risk the external, his life, his body for the internal virtue, duty. He was eventually executed for it, but his philosophical integrity was secure.
That story really drives home that Stoicism isn't about passivity or retreat. It's about facing conflict with character, knowing the only real loss is the loss of your own virtue.
Precisely. He chose integrity because, for a Stoic, that's the only real good.
So the Stoic citizen needs courage, yes, but also other political virtues, and maybe one of the hardest when dealing with opponents or people who've done real harm is justice, especially when justice might demand moderation or clemency, not just punishment.
That's a huge challenge. And we have perhaps the ultimate case study in Marcus Aurelius and his handling of the Cassius Rebellion.
Right, Avidius Cassius, one of his top generals, declared himself emperor, a full-blown civil war.
Yeah, Cassius gained a lot of support. It was a serious threat. He was eventually defeated and killed by his own officers, actually. But the question remained, what happens to everyone who supported him?
Normally, an emperor facing that, you'd expect purges, executions, widespread retaliation. It's politically expedient.
But Marcus wasn't typical. His response was shaped by his Stoic philosophy, not by anger or political calculation. His clemency was remarkable.
He pardoned entire cities that sided with Cassius.
Yes, and crucially, he wrote to the Senate, pleading with them for moderation. He insisted, no senator punished, no nobleman executed, exiles allowed back home.
Why? What was his reasoning?
He understood that revenge, fueled by anger, just creates more resentment, more instability down the road. True justice, for him, was about restoring harmony and the common good, not about getting even.
And he even protected Cassius's family.
He did. He made sure Cassius's children, his wife, his son-in-law were safe, provided for, kept their status. He famously said he wished he could recall the condemned also from the grave. He wanted the only deaths from the rebellion to be those who actually died during the fighting.
That's an incredible display of political virtue. Justice tempered by reason and moderation, not driven by anger. Clemency as a strength.
Exactly. And this kind of virtuous action, this courage and moderation, it's not supposed to be easy. Seneca actually argued we should almost welcome adversity, including political setbacks,
Welcome them. Why?
as training opportunities. He thought adversity as an exercise for virtue. Remember the wrestler analogy?
Right, the wrestler gets stronger, facing tough opponents, not weak ones.
Same idea. Adversity in politics, facing injustice, dealing with difficult people, handling defeats, that's your workout. That's where you practice and display justice, courage, resilience, moderation when it's hardest. These are the heavy halteries that build your moral character.
So conflict and disappointment aren't just things to endure, they're chances to practice virtue.
They are essential for training virtue. Seneca also pointed out how irrational it is to be shocked by misfortune, thinking, oh, I never thought this could happen to me.
When we know perfectly well that political upsets, injustice, things going wrong, that's just part of life, part of society.
Right. If you anticipate it, if you prepare mentally for the possibility of failure or adversity, the shock is less when it happens. You cope better. You're ready to recalibrate and decide on your next virtuous action rather than just collapsing in despair.
Which brings us back to that core idea. Virtue is the skill of selecting well among the indifferents.
Exactly. The goal isn't necessarily achieving the external outcome you wanted, the political win, the policy change. The goal is the quality of your choices and actions in pursuit of that outcome.
Acting justly, acting rationally, acting courageously.
Regardless of the result, your integrity, your character that remains intact, even if the preferred candidate loses or your bill fails, that's the only metric that truly counts in the end. So let's try to pull this together. The path for the Stoic citizen involves first that relentless focus on what's truly ours, our character, our judgment, our prohairesis.
Okay. Then defending that inner space by managing those disruptive emotions, especially anger and fear, by not automatically assenting to every disturbing impression that comes along.
Right. Third, prioritizing our inherent social nature, our duty to the whole community, that evangelia acting like a functional part of the larger body.
And finally, executing our actions with justice, moderation, courage, seeing the inevitable difficulties not as disasters, but as training for that very character.
It's a demanding framework, no doubt. And the Stoics knew that even the most dedicated among us sometimes need, well, a kind of final defense against the sheer weight and noise of political life, a way to keep perspective.
And that's the view from above, the cosmic perspective.
Exactly. Marcus Aurelius especially recommended this practice. You consciously step back, you imagine looking down on the earth from a vast height.
Seeing how tiny everything is, countries, cities.
Tiny countries, minuscule cities, the constant flow of people coming and going throughout history. You see the whole sweep. And from that vantage point,
Your own life, your own cares and concerns, they start to look pretty small.
they shrink. All the urgent political battles, the polarization, the things that feel so life and death in the moment. They become specks in the grand scheme. Marcus felt contemplating this should keep us from getting too worked up about the little affair of character and glory, or chasing the noisy echo of applauses.
It's like an antidote to obsession and self-importance.
Yeah.
Setting our maybe 80, 90 years against, what did he call it? The vast immensity of eternal duration.
Yes, when you really hold that perspective, it's hard to stay consumed by anger or despair over the temporary political weather. It brings a necessary humility.
And that leads to the final thought the Stoics kind of leave us with, doesn't it? Everything external eventually dissolves. Fortune, fame, political wins, even our bodies.
Marcus reminds us the only thing that truly sticks with us, that follows us, is our philosophy. And what does that consist in? For a man to preserve that spirit which is within him from all manner of contumelies and injuries, protecting that inner core.
The world's always going to offer reasons for outrage, reasons for despair, reasons to maybe compromise your integrity for some short-term political gain.
Always.
Yeah.
But the power to protect that inner spirit, that flame of reason and virtue, that, the Stoics insist, remains yours.
So maybe as you go about your civic life, engage with the news, talk politics this week, it's worth asking yourself, what am I ultimately trying to preserve here?
Is it the fleeting noise, the temporary win, maybe at the cost of your own peace of mind? Or is it the enduring integrity of your character?
That choice, they promise, is always, always within your control.